Hi guys, I hope you're good. Let's look at India50, which is the Indian index, and I'm on the monthly chart as you guys can see. And on this particular chart, I can see that we have this candlestick over here. What it is a bearish candlestick with a relatively small body and a long lower wick, and it tells us that at the bottom where it ends, where that candlestick ends, there's a lot of liquidity sitting at that point, and it needs to be triggered by the market at one point or another, and that is because all these liquidity points represent money, and as I've said guys, this money needs to be triggered by the market at one point or another, right? So what else do we see guys in regards to India50 on the monthly chart? Another thing that I see that is also very much interesting is the fact that we had this inverted head and shoulders pattern at that point. Let me just actually draw it properly. Right, we have this inverted head and shoulders pattern at that point, with the side being the left shoulder, this being the head, and the side being the right shoulder, as you guys can see, right? And we can also see that the neckline of this particular pattern is around this area here, and also the neckline has been broken to the upside. And what normally happens guys in regards to inverted head and shoulders patterns where price is broken to the upside of that neckline is that we expect price to head back to the neckline to test it, and if it does so, at that neckline is where we would look for potential buying opportunities, right? So what I would love to see happen actually is for price or the market to push further up and then come down to just test the neckline of this particular pattern over here, which is the inverted head and shoulders pattern. And if it does so, at this point is where we would look for potential buying opportunities, right? I hope that makes sense. So what I'm going to do now is just add a neckline to that structure, so just bear with me guys while I do so. Let's see, we could say that more or less, let me just make this a blue color. Let's have a look. Right, we can say that more or less this area over here is the neckline of that inverted head and shoulders pattern. And just remember also that necklines are not actual lines, they are rather areas, right? Anyway, what else do we see guys in regards to this particular chart of India50? At this point I don't see much, so what I will do here is now head down to the weekly chart. However, before I do so, let me just also point out that as much as we have this candlestick over here, which is a liquidity candlestick, we have another one at this point and a third one at this level as well. So what this tells us is that in the future we will indeed see price pushing further down, first to this level to grab the liquidity, then to this level to grab that liquidity, and then again to this level again to grab that liquidity as well, right? However, it may take price, or rather the market, some years for it to head down to all of these price levels, right? Anyway, from here, as I said, I'm just gonna move down to the weekly chart, and here we are on the weekly chart. Let me just fix my neckline of that inverted head and shoulders pattern. Let's have a look. There we go, more or less, right? And remember guys, on the monthly chart we spoke about how we have this particular pattern over here, which is an inverted head and shoulders pattern, and we said that it has a neckline at that point, and we also said that the neckline has been broken to the upside, right? So what else do we see guys in regards to the weekly chart of India50? I'm just going to zoom in a bit. So at this point I really don't see much. Just also bear in mind that this neckline of that inverted head and shoulders pattern is also a very strong level of resistance, right? As you can see, initially price had broken to the upside of that neckline, but at this point in time it looks as though the market is starting to move below that particular area. Nonetheless, let's keep moving forward. So what else do we see guys? Another thing that I see is that we have this candlestick over here, as well as this one over here, right? And this one over here. They are also liquidity candlesticks in the sense that they too are carrying a lot of liquidity. So there is a lot of scope for the market to push further down, as much as we have that inverted head and shoulders pattern, which indicates that we should be looking for potential buying opportunities, right? It seems as though there is plenty of scope for the market to move further down, right? I'm just going to mark these areas where we have all of those liquidity points, so that we won't forget about them as we head down to the smaller time frames, right? So there we go. So what else do we see, guys, in regards to this particular chart of India50, which is the weekly chart? At this point, really, I don't see much, although I just also want to point out that we had an overextended W formation over here, which also has a neckline at that point, right? And it's a overextended W formation because the first leg is much higher than the second leg. I hope you guys can see that, right? At this point over here, right? And then we can see that price at this point in time seems to be testing the neckline of this W structure over here. And what may happen at this point is that the market may possibly push further up, right? And that is because whenever it comes to guys, remember, W structures, we want to see price breaking to the upside of that neckline and then coming back to the neckline to test it. And at that neckline is where we may potentially look for buying opportunities, right? So I'm just going to add a neckline to that area as well, although things are a bit quite tight at this point in time, but just to ensure that we don't miss anything out, for now I'm just going to add a neckline to that structure, right, which is, as I said, guys, the neckline of this overextended W structure, right? Anyway, let's proceed. From here, what I'm going to do is head down to the daily chart. Let's see, and here we are on the daily chart. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Let's see. And just to recap, guys, remember on the bigger time frames we spoke about how we had that huge inverted head and shoulders pattern, which has a neckline at that point, right? Remember that, right? What also did we say? We also said we have this overextended W structure, which also has a neckline at that point, and we can see that price broke to the upside of that neckline and then seems to be coming down to retest that neckline. And I said that at that neckline is where we may possibly look for potential buying opportunities, right? Just keep that in the back of your mind as we proceed. Another thing that I see that is also very much interesting is the fact that we have what seems to be a head and shoulders pattern at this point, as you guys can see, with this side being the left shoulder, this being the head, and this being the right hand shoulder. And this particular pattern also has a neckline more or less at this area. So what does this mean? What this means is that we have a very mixed index in India50, as we have many patterns that are opposing each other at this point in time. So ultimately what this means is that buying or selling at this point over here is a bit risky, because the market can go just about anywhere at this point in time, right? So just keep that in the back of your mind as we proceed, right? So the next thing that I'm going to do at this point is to add my daily channel. Let's see, how would I add my daily channel in this regard? I would add my daily channel in this manner. Just bear with me, guys. Just bear with me, guys. I just wanted to make sure that my channel is as accurate as can be, right? Let's see. There goes my daily channel, as you guys can see. And we can see that in regards to this particular channel, we are in an upward trajectory, and we expect price to continue to move further up, right? And just remember also that on the weekly chart we spoke about how we have this W structure which has a neckline at that point, and this confirms that indeed we should have looked for a potential buying opportunity at that point, right? Having said that, we just needed to be careful, because as much as we have this overextended W structure which has a neckline at that point, and price coming down to the neckline to test it, and I said that we should be looking for potential buying opportunities. As much as we have that, guys, just also keep in mind that we have this pattern over here, right, which is a head and shoulders pattern, which also has a neckline at that point, and we can see at this point that the neckline has been broken somewhat. And yeah, as I said, guys, this confirms further that buying or selling at this point is a bit risky, in regards to the daily chart, or rather in as far as the daily chart goes, right? However, let's go down to the H4 chart to see if we can potentially get away with making any buying or selling decisions at this point in time, right? Let's see. So from here, as I said, I'm just going to move down to the H4 chart. On the H4 chart, I'm just going to adjust my daily channel just to ensure that, as I said, everything is still accurate. That looks good, more or less. Let's see what else. There we go, there we go, there we go. Right, remember guys, remember we spoke about how we have this overextended W structure which has a neckline over there, right? And we also spoke about how we have this pattern over here, which is a head and shoulders pattern, which also had, or rather has, a neckline at that point, more or less, right? So here we are on the H4 chart. So the next thing that I'm going to do in regards to the H4 chart is to add my H4 channel. So let's have a look. How would I add my H4 channel? Let's see. So I would add my H4 channel in this manner. Just bear with me, guys. I would add my H4 channel more or less in this manner, and we can also see that as much as the daily channel is in an upward trajectory, the H4 chart on the other hand is in a downward trajectory, as you guys can see, right? So what else do we see, guys, in regards to the H4 chart? So on the H4 chart, guys, as much as on the daily chart we spoke about how we have this head and shoulders pattern with a neckline more or less at that level, can you guys also see that we have an opposing structure in the form of an inverted head and shoulders pattern as well at this point, right? Let me just actually draw that properly so you guys can see exactly what it is that I'm referring to, right? We have this pattern over here where we have the left shoulder of that inverted head and shoulders pattern, we have the head at this point and the right shoulder at this point, and we can say that more or less the neckline is at around this area, more or less, right? And what I would love to see happen is for, or rather what I would love to see happen in as far as taking this pattern seriously goes is for price to close above the neckline of that particular structure, right? So what does this mean, guys? This means, in my humble opinion, that India50 is very much mixed, and at this point in time we could see the market go in either direction, right? I'm just gonna add an inner trend line at this point just to see if we can further make sense of what's going on in as far as this chart goes. Let's see. Just bear with me, guys. Just bear with me, guys. I just want to make sure that this particular inner trend line is as accurate as can be. Let's see, more or less. Oh, what's going on? Okay, that should be fine. I suppose you guys can see what it is exactly that I'm trying to do, right? So guys, just to recap, remember I said we have this pattern over here, which is a head and shoulders pattern, which has a neckline at that point, right? And I also said that in regards to the H4 chart, we can see that it's in a downward trajectory, right? However, I also spoke about the fact that we have this pattern over here, right, which is a rather an inverted head and shoulders pattern, right? And to add to that, we can see that this inner trend line over here has been rather broken to the upside, right? So what is likely to happen is that we might potentially see the market push further up to around this area over here, or rather this level over here. Just bear with me. You might see the market push to this level over here. Let me just actually mark it. Just bear with me, guys. We might see the market push to around this area over here, which is a very strong level of resistance, and that is because we've had multiple rejections at that level, as you guys can see, right? And just also keep in mind that it is the neckline of this inverted head and shoulders pattern, and should price, guys, close above this area over here, chances are we will see the market push further up to test this trend line over here. And if it breaks the trend line, I would love to see price come back to the neckline to test it and then push further up, right? So that is it, guys. And as far as my analysis goes, I hope it makes sense. Just to repeat what I've just said, as much as, guys, I said, let me just zoom in a bit. As much as I said, guys, that we have this pattern over here, which is a head and shoulders pattern, right? Just also bear in mind that we have an opposing structure in the form of an inverted head and shoulders pattern with a neckline at that point. Should price, right, close above this level over here, chances are that it'll head up to test this point over here, right? We might possibly get a sell at this point. However, should price close above this area or break that trend line, what we would do then is wait for the market to head back to the trend line to test it, and at that point is where we would look for potential buying opportunities, and our take profit would be this level over here. Just bear with me, this level over here, right? Otherwise, what may also possibly happen is that, remember I said we have this pattern over here, which is an inverted head and shoulders pattern, which has a neckline at that point. Price may reach this point and then only push further down, right? Because if we look at the bigger chart, or the bigger time frame, which is the daily chart, remember we have this inverted head and shoulders pattern, and price may push further down, right? So in conclusion, India50 at this point in time, I believe, is very much mixed, and anything may happen in regards to this particular index, right? I hope my analysis makes sense and it helps out, and peace out, guys.